So, why is this taking forever? Is a common statement I hear people make when a family member passes away and they are waiting to get their share of the estate. And they're saying, this person died months ago. Why does it take so long to get my property? Hi, I'm Claire from the Yanowitz Law Firm, where we've been helping families when a loved one passes away for over 30 years now. And today I'm going to talk to you about different things that have to be done when someone dies and can be the reasons why it can take a little while to wrap up their estate administration. So, first thing is when someone dies, if they've earned enough income, you still have to file their final income tax return, okay? And that is due by April 15th, the year following their death. So for people that die at the beginning of the year, January, February, March, we cannot file that income tax return until the first quarter of the following year. So in that instance, we can't wrap up everything before we distribute out all the money from an estate. We want to be darn sure that we have paid all the final expenses that that person has had. Because once all the money has been released, sometimes it can be hard to get it back to pay those bills. So if someone needs to go through probate, there is a particular time period that we have to wait where people can make claims on the estate to show that the person owed them money. And so with probate, what happens is we publish notice of a hearing in the newspaper that this probate hearing is going to happen and someone's going to be appointed to take over the collecting assets for that deceased person. And 4 months, that newspaper publication is the time period in which people can make claims on the estate. This dead person owed me money. I want to get paid now. They file that with the court records. And so we have to wait this automatic 4 months after that period. And then once 4 months is passed, we search the court records. And if a claim is filed, we have to take care of that. So we can't just distribute out everything immediately. We need to see if anybody shows up during that time to pay them off. Now, oftentimes, estates have real estate in them, and they have to be sold, and the proceeds are transferred to the surviving family members. And sometimes it can take a little while to sell real estate. Maybe we need to clean out the house, and that can take some time, sort out which family members are getting what from the house. Maybe some improvements need to be made to the house before it's sold, and then actually getting it on the market and finding a buyer for the real estate. Those all can take some time in some instances. Also, some estates have to file an estate tax return. If someone died with more than $3 million in Minnesota, they have to file a Minnesota estate tax return. And that return is due 9 months after the person died. So we need to turn it into the government 9 months after they die. But the government doesn't release those estate tax returns usually until the fourth quarter of the year. So for people that die in January or February, even though we might have all the information to prepare the return, the actual form to submit it to the government doesn't get created until the end of the year. So we are kind of just waiting for that form to come out so that we can input the information in the form and then file it with the government. Once that form is filed with the government, it looks at all of the estate tax returns filed with Minnesota, not just a few, they look at all of them. And in order to prove that they've looked at it and that they're not going to contest any of the valuations from that estate tax return, you need what's called a closing letter. And you can request a closing letter 9 months after the return is filed, okay? So if you do your math correctly, this might be 18 months from date of death, because 9 months to file the return, and then 9 months after that, you get to request the closing letter. So now we're at 18 months. But Minnesota doesn't always respond to our request at 9 months. They may take longer to look at that return, which can extend it beyond 18 months timeline. And we often tell our clients, look, you can do an initial distribution to the beneficiaries, but you really want to make sure there's a holdback to ensure that the government doesn't, contest that return that we filed with the government. They don't have anything that they say is wrong. And so we don't want to distribute out everything until we get that closing letter. And even though if you tried to do everything correctly on an estate tax returns, there are some numbers that are kind of fuzzy. Like it's kind of hard to know exactly the value of real estate, closely held businesses, timeshares. Those are all types of property that doesn't have a real agreed upon value, unlike marketable securities. And so those are always subject to more attack by the government than if you were to just say, I had 10,000 in my bank account. That you show them the statement, they know that that's correct. So that's something that can take a while. Now, something else to consider, why is this taking forever, is that tax returns, like income tax returns, can be audited up to 3 years after they're filed, and you can shorten that to 18 months. So if the trustee or the personal representative distributes all the money and then there's some funny business on a past income tax return that is filed, the government can come back and say, look, they didn't file their income taxes correctly, they owed us more money. And then what happens is that personal representative or trustee has to go back to the family and say, give me back the money. And if the family doesn't give back the money, that trustee or personal representative can be held personally liable for the shortcoming. So that is a reason why sometimes people will wait on distributing all the assets for a little while after death to just make sure that there aren't any audits on these tax returns, all the expenses are paid, and they get a closing letter on the estate tax return. If you have had a loved one pass away recently and you're looking for guidance, our firm is here to help. Give us a call at 507-252-8997, and we'd be happy to guide you through the process. Thank you.